Welcome back to Listening to Reading. We're continuing on with this series, The Boxcar Children, in The Yellow House Mystery by Gertrude Chandler Warner. Today we're going to tackle chapter number 8. Now, if you remember, there was a visitor in the camp, and this particular chapter is called The Lumber Camp. And I'm looking at a picture that tells me exactly what the visitor is. I wonder if you've guessed it already. The moon was almost as bright as day. Mr. Hill whispered, "Look out," very quietly. Very slowly, the other tent flaps open. The children saw the large black bear, but he did not hear them or smell them. He did not smell anything but the bacon. Back and forth it swung as he hit it with his big paw. "Don't be afraid, Violet," whispered Alice. "The bear won't hurt us. He is afraid of us." Just then the bacon fell at the bear's feet. Down he went on all fours again. He lay down and began to chew the bacon. And there's that picture I've been telling you guys about. You can clearly see that that is a bear, and he's munching on some bacon. I mean, who doesn't like bacon? Man, there goes our bacon. Just then Mr. Hill flashed a light in the bear's face. The bear jumped up and ran off into the woods as fast as he could. "Didn't he look funny? But he left our bacon." "That was a wonderful sight," said Henry. "I'm certainly glad that Mr. Hill happened to wake up." They were soon asleep again. They did not know that Joe had asked Mr. Hill to come because he knew he could show them a big black bear. They did not know that Mr. Hill and the bear were good friends. The bear knew that he would find food wherever Mr. Hill was. The next morning, Mr. Hill said as he and Joe made a fire, "I must leave you after breakfast. When you start off, you'll soon come to a lumber camp." "I wish you would leave the baker to wash dishes in," said Benny. "Yes, I brought it for you," said Mr. Hill with a smile. He washed the bacon well and cut it into thin pieces. Soon it was cooking in the pan over the fire. Hot cereal and canned milk seemed delicious in the cold morning air. Mr. Hill made quick bread in the little baker. As soon as the bread was done, the children began to hear many blue jays in the trees. "They want our breakfast," said Mr. Hill, looking up. "Wait until we sit down and then see how near they will come. Then throw some pieces on the ground." Indeed, the air was full of blue jays. 6 or 7 beautiful birds flew to the ground. The children could almost reach out and touch them, they were so close. "Come on, everybody. I want to see that lumber camp." He began to pick up the dishes, making the birds fly back into the trees. Jessie laughed. "What a housekeeper you are all of a sudden. Let's all help." Soon the camp was all clean again, and everything was packed in the canoes, and Mr. Hill gave them each a push. "Thanks, Mr. Hill," said Joe to his old friend. "Thanks for everything," Jessie called back as the 2 canoes went smoothly down the lake. The children waved until Mr. Hill turned and went into the woods. "He was nice, wasn't he?" said Violet. "All Maine guides are nice, Violet," laughed Joe. Fish were jumping here and there in the water beside the canoes. "Oh, can't we go fishing today, Joe?" asked Benny. "We'll have to go fishing unless we want to eat beans for 3 days. When we get around 2 or 3 looks, we'll stop and fish." "2 or 3 what?" "2 or 3 looks," replied Joe. "See that turn in the lake? You can't see it around yet. They call it a look." "That's a good name for it," said Jessie. "What do we fish with?" "Didn't you see the fishing rods Mr. Hill brought us?" asked Benny. "He brought 2, 1 for each canoe. We can take turns fishing." "We fish with flies," Joe told them. "Not real flies. I have a box of gray ghosts in my pack. They look like real flies to the fish, so they go after them and then get caught." The canoes passed the next look and the next. Then Joe called back to Henry. "Want to stop and fish?" "You bet," said Henry. "You'll have to show us how." "Alice knows how," called Joe. He stopped paddling. "She'll show you and Violet." The 2 canoes floated together as Joe and Alice each put a pretty gray ghost fly on their lines. Then Joe whipped his line out over the water. "That's nice, Joe," cried Benny. "Isn't it easy? When you get a fish, let me try, will you?" "Sure," said Joe, smiling. "Now sit very still." "Oh, look!" cried Jessie. "You've got a fish, Alice. Pull it in." "Not so fast," answered Alice. "You have to play these fellows." She pulled her line in very slowly and carefully. Everyone watched her land the large fish and take it off the hook. Then Joe caught one. Benny could hardly wait. Now it's my turn. Right, said Joe. You saw me whip the line over the water. Now you do it. Benny took the rod. He lifted it just as Joe had done, and whip went the line. But it did not go out over the water. It went backwards over his head. Look out, cried Joe to Alice. But he was too late. The hook caught fast in her hair and pulled it down over her face. Oh, Alice, your pretty smooth hair, said Violet. I'm so sorry, called Benny. I don't see how I did that. Never mind. I ought to have been watching. Everyone misses the first time. Violet will soon get the hook out. Violet leaned over at once and worked the hook out. Don't do that again, Benny, she said. It's not as easy as it looks, Benny, to whip that line out, said Jessie. You better let Joe do the fishing. No, not at all. Let him try again. He needs to learn. Benny fished and fished, but he found it worthwhile when he caught 3 trout. He looked at every spot on the fish as if he had made it himself. At last, Joe said, we have enough fish now. The men at the lumber camp will want to feed us, but it's nice to have our own food, too. See the logs in the water over there, said Alice. The men at the camp roll the logs into the water, and they float down by themselves. When the children started off again, they began to hear the sound of axes. Soon they could hear a great crash when a tree fell. At last they heard a lumberman calling to them, Hi! Hi! They all waved to him. Paddle in, Henry, said Joe. We'll stay here tonight. The man seemed very glad to see them. Right away he asked them to stay to dinner. Yes, we'd be glad to, said Joe. We have a lot of fish here, but we'd like to put up our tents in your camp for the night. Fine, said the man who was the boss. Hi, Cookie, we have company. The cook looked up with a laugh. Come in. Stay as long as you want. You like beans? Benny went up to the cook. We just love beans, but we got a lot of fish. I'll show you the ones I caught. You can't tell them apart, said Henry. Oh, yes, I can, said Benny. I caught 3 and I know every one. I caught this one, and this one, and this one. They look just alike to me, said Cookie with a smile. Cook them for the little boy, Cookie, said the boss. Fix them all up. When dinner was ready, Cookie let Benny ring the bell. The lumbermen came crashing through the bushes. They always hurry that way to the dinner, said Cookie. The men made room for the visitors. There were 3 tables full of people. Baked beans and quick bread made a fine dinner. And after dinner, the boss said, You show the visitors how we cut the trees, Bill. Bill, whispered Violet to Joe. They all looked to see which man was named Bill, but they knew right off it was not the Bill that they were hunting for. He was too young. The afternoon went by too quickly. After a supper of their cooked fish, they went to bed in their own tents. The lumbermen had little log houses. Don't be surprised if you hear porcupines, said the boss. They like the grease around here, and they come most every night. What do they sound like? Asked Henry. Little pigs, said the boss. They squeal and they chew. When they chew, it sounds like someone sawing wood. When the camp was quiet, Henry woke up suddenly. He thought it was morning and the men were sawing. Then he heard many loud squeals, and he said to himself, It's porcupines. I've never seen a porcupine like that before. But the squeals had awakened all the rest, and both tent doors opened. What a noise, whispered Jessie. Where are they? See that ball? Asked Alice. Right by the table. There's a porcupine. He is chewing the table to get the grease. There were 5 porcupines in all, eating and squealing. When the children had watched them for a long time, Joe said, We must get our sleep. They'd better go. Then he flashed a light at them, and they rolled into balls and kept very still. But when Joe flashed the light again, they went hurrying away into the woods. Well, said Jessie, lying down again, we see our most interesting sights in the middle of the night. I hope they won't come back, said Alice, because Joe says tomorrow will be a hard day. But even Joe had no idea how hard the day was going to be. And here is a picture of a little porcupine. Kind of cute, but kind of not. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the chapter number 8. Did you notice at the end of the book, to the end of the chapter, it kind of gave a foreshadow. Foreshadow means like what might happen next, because it said that even Joe didn't know what a hard day it was going to be. So, obviously, it's going to be a tough day for all of them. But the chapter number 9 is called Almost Starving. And we will read that next time. Until next time, keep reading.